us from the banking fraternity. I may say digital transformation leaders are here with us. Let me invite the Suresh Shankaran, VP Information Security Group, SDFC Bank Limited. Huge round of applause for him. We have with us Dheeraj Saxena, CGM and Head of Digital Banking and Emerging Payments, IDBI Bank. We welcome Mr. Dheeraj. We have with us Mr. Ashton D. Cruz, Director, Chief of Staff, CISO and Head of Governance, NatWest Marketplace in India. And we have with us Mr. Murli Mohan Rao Manduva, CTO of DCB Bank. And myself, Shovik, I'll be moderating the session. So, hi all. I think it's a very important topic we are discussing today. Uh, One aspect is security challenges, and other aspect is visualizing banking of tomorrow. And in both the cases, technology, emerging technologies is going to play a very, very important role. And you all are the digital transformation leaders from your own organization. So let me start with Mr. Suresh. My first question to you will be that if we talk about cybersecurity solutions, how do you think that the new age cybersecurity solutions can help banks or the BFSI organizations in terms of monitoring, detecting, preempting various kinds of threats? And what is your take on that, sir?
So I'm audible, right? Okay. So see, as a bank, most of the banks have solutions like antivirus, basic solutions, firewalls, and so on and so forth. But today, we are in a position to collect lot of logs, lot of data. So you have your SIEM solution, you have your latest anti-APT solutions. So all these solutions help you to really make an in-depth analysis of what is going on in your IT ecosystem or your IT infrastructure. So this is a change, and day in and day out we see many vendors coming in and proposing newer and newer solutions. So that will be a cat and mouse game where we have to actually balance how many solutions you actually want to put in your users endpoints or servers. So this is the challenge and day to day happening in the banking sector. So today many people complain their machines have become slow because of so many agents. So and if we get one solution which is going to do everything, that is what will be a great way forward for banking and other institutions who are exposed to so many zero-day attacks, so much of hacking, so on and so forth. So this is something we are looking at, and we are also looking at hardened machines with and even the access control has to be limited. With the work from home scenario, people are actually working from home. We are just to put technical controls to ensure that they don't do any activity which is outside their purview. So we have solutions for, designed for work from home, which can actually, even they have a camera which can record whatever you are doing. That is the ultimate kind of monitoring of staff. But there are endpoint solutions for work from home users where it can prevent you from taking any screenshots, and you cannot put any key key recorder or anything happening on the endpoint, even if it's a non company endpoint. Suppose you have a vendor who is using his corporate laptop, he or she cannot do any mischief. So those kind of controls are there. They check for the uh, version of your antivirus, your OS. So that way things are moving forward. We are able to control the environment. And the last maybe the ultimate thing will be some camera looking at you 24 hours. So you start using the banking system, the camera will switch on. If you take a photograph, it will report it to your managers. So that is the way things are going. And even on the central server side, we hear a lot of activities on AIML. So, but the thing is, you can get the best of your solutions, but your legacy system should have all the logging and monitoring capability to feed all these AIML tools and equipment which can make meaningful analysis and raise alerts. So this is something at a general level I wanted to share
And I
in
think
the group.
also what you said also opens up a huge opportunity for the technology solution providers, that you are
Yes,
saying that
yes,
you're
yes.
looking for a system or a solution or a package, if I may say so, where you can see a comprehensive solution, end-to-end solution is there in one package,
Yeah.
which is not available maybe. That can be again the people who are present here, the technological solution providers. They may get a cue from what you are saying. I'll come back to you. Let's have a perspective from Mr. Dheeraj Saxena. Dheeraj, uh, if we talk about dealing with spyware, malware, and all kinds of threat, what are the trends of leveraging sophisticated digital technology uh, in recent past, and where do you see we are heading towards?
See, spyware and malware and all that, they're part of life now. है ना? People are exposed to it day in day out. huh? But now in the digital world, okay, now we are heading towards various technologies, right? AI, ML based, the rule engine based, say credit decisioning, okay, customer service, okay, all those kinds of things, and it is equally important that the uh, person who is using it should be aware of all these. And right now, I think in general, in the metros and all, people are quite aware about these things, and they are very careful in using it. But at the same time, with these new technologies, say for example, if I may say voice biometrics, okay, one is biometric based authentication, okay, Aadhaar based authentication and all that, okay, that is fine. But what about voice biometrics? Though it's very premature as of now, but going forward, these are some of the major challenges for CISO. Okay, how to deal with it? Voice biometrics is not easy to, how to recognize. Okay, and suppose if I'm driving and there is a toll, I'll say, okay, recharge my FASTag. Okay, that type of things will come going forward, maybe in next 5 years or so it will come. So it's this role of a CISO is very challenging going forward, and obviously with work from home, as he said, also it's very difficult uh, to deal with the data protection part of it. Okay, the data protection is like for BFSI sector. Okay, it's most important thing, right? Considering the regulations and all that, you cannot have a data breach which can happen in the organization, right? So my take is like CISOs, though I am on the other side of it, okay, I'm not CISO, I am from the digital banking side. So I think, and for me, I am impacted because right now CISOs are anything which is coming new, okay. CISOs are also taking lot of doing lot of analysis and to deal with it, how to take care of such security risk, okay, whether can we do a vendor risk assessment and things like that, okay. But still the time is moving, right? So we have to act fast, and we have to take some external help also if required. And but that is, nobody can guarantee it's foolproof, right? So we have to deal with it. We have to assume because something will happen, and it is happening. Some data breaches are still happening, right? But at our side, we should keep sufficient safeguards, okay, so that whatever known vulnerabilities are there, that will not impact us, right?
Right, right.
Thank you.
I think what Dheeraj has said, I saw Ashton is nodding his head. I think Dheeraj was talking about CISOs, life of CISOs getting harder day by day. So let's have a perspective from Ashton. Ashton, you heard both the speakers, and when you talk about data security, securing the infrastructure, or anything securing, how do we manage? What are the challenges, and how do you think that technology can help in managing those kind of challenges? Your thoughts on that? If we say overall cybersecurity ecosystem.
Sure. Thanks for the question, Shavik. Before I give the answer, I must submit views, expressions that I expressed here in my personal capacity may or may not be subscribed to by my organization. Okay, so with that disclaimer in place, I'll come to the question. Okay, so
Noted and points taken.
okay, so coming to your query, what has changed in the recent past? The pandemic happened. We had 2 years of the pandemic. Again, that saw a vast change in the way our business resilience strategy worked. Okay, overnight we went from an in-office, a brick and mortar situation into a remote and a hybrid working environment. Okay, and when we say remote, it could be remote means work from anywhere, not just home. It could have been office, it could have been a park, it could have been anywhere in the world. It was a remote working environment. What that related and what that did to us, it basically almost overnight exponentially increased the surface area of our attack. Okay, where I was concentrated with maybe three office locations, maybe five, to for a larger organization maybe 50, that has been exponentially increased almost 100 times overnight, and organizations were not quite ready for it. The second risk that got called out was basically in terms of unsecured endpoints. Okay, in office everything is within the network, everything is in an infrastructure that is closely guarded. Overnight we went into an unsecured setup. As a country, I don't think we were geared up for the change as well. So our connectivities, internet connectivity, etc., was also not up to the mark from day one. There was a lot of instability, etc. And most importantly, something that we tend to forget is humans and staff were not trained and not equipped to handle this change, because no one knew that they were going to be working from home or working remotely from the next day. So these were the four challenges that we have. Now let's come back to the new normal. What does the new normal say, and what's the common ground? And when I say common ground, I speak across the BFSI sector, be it a bank, be it any other financial institutions, and maybe across industry segments in a way as well. Okay, we looking at now a hybrid work environment. Nowhere and very rarely, I think maybe some of the manufacturing factories, etc., need staff to get back in physical form to office. But most of us are now you looking at a hybrid work environment. Cloud adoption has become a must, because easier to access from anywhere, scalability. Digitalization is the next buzzword. Digital transformation, innovation, digitalization. We basically moved from physical transactions to digital transactions. We've moved from physical presence and someone needing to be there in person to be able to transact in a way, to now doing everything online. And lastly is the adoption of technology, be it ML, be it AI, be it any of the next gen technologies. That's what the new normal has brought about. Okay, so that's where we stand from a business perspective. What risk do I see as a CISO in terms of all of that? That's the large scale of opportunity to the dark web to be able to exploit the setups. Okay, again, something that I have said before, if I look at a hacker has opportunity across hundreds of organizations, and hundreds of times that he can choose to attempt to get into an organization. He needs to succeed only once. What does the business have? Hundreds of threats all around trying to get into our system, and I cannot fail even once. So that's how skewed the setup is in favor of the other side. And given that, we have to basically manage it all. Okay, so but as we say, change is constant, change is eternal. Take that into consideration and work on your strategies. Do not forget the human aspect of it, because humans are responsible for 80% of breaches that happen are basically through insider threats. Accidental, intentional, that doesn't matter. It is basically the cause.
Interesting, interesting. And you talked about cloud adoption. Also, you talked about AI, ML, other things. So let me take a perspective from Murli Munhar. Murli, your thoughts on uh, how banks are embracing these emerging technologies like be it MI, AI, ML, robotics, VR, voice-based solutions. Uh, I think banking system in India has come a long way, and they have been using technology in a big way. Especially in last 2 years, we have seen kind of transformation, digital transformation, which has taken place. Where do you see India standing today, India's banking sector standing today, and maybe 2 years or 3 years down the line in terms of leveraging emerging technologies for digital transformation?
Yeah. See, I think from a India as a country perspective and from a futuristic, the regulatory view perspective, even before the pandemic has started, right? There are few great initiatives that the regulator and the government has taken in terms of creating a Aadhaar-based authentication for your KYC journeys, or introducing the UPI, which is a payment, which is every year it is almost doubling in terms of, and it created humongous opportunity in the ecosystem to create independent applications. So that's the, I think, I would say that even before the pandemic has started, rather pandemic has come in, the digitization has got a big lever, that has been given by the government and the regulator. I think many of the banks have started utilizing those things, but the pandemic has only given a lot of ammunition for a digital acceleration across different products, services, as the other panelists are saying. Overnight we have become, we are forced to become a digital banking or digital organization. Not only from a finance industry perspective, every other industry was expected to provide services digitally, because it's all remote working and things like that. So that's where I think, with having that infrastructure already provided, and some of us have already adopted some of those those initiatives, I think it has created a more level field. And the technologies that we talked about, with the digitization and with the kind of a customer base that we are dealing with, uh, especially the millennials, where the tolerance is very, very low, and the expectation from a service is very high. So the expectation is that it has to be 24/7, anywhere banking, or doorstep banking. So this is the convenience that's been asked for, and that has become a new norm in the current state of things. And that's where, without having the sufficient technology bone created, it is highly difficult to meet any of those expectations. That's where, when we look at RPA as robotic process automation, or a business process automation, that has really helped in automating many of the processes which otherwise were possibly silos, or they are disintegrated, and it was adding to your SLAs and TATs, right? And it's not one kind of a technology which can help you in bringing a better or a personalized experience. For example, an RPA with an artificial intelligence will really give you a notch above, in terms of your service, in creating a personalized experience for your customers, and also to give a leverage in terms of an additional fraud detection, which otherwise would have been a manual process. I think the uh, the uh, the RPA, the artificial intelligence, which gives you that additional knowledge, which helps you to create newer services and products, which we are seeing it in the current scenario of any of the banks. Like, you've seen multiple banks offering conversational AI, and chatbots, wherein most of the rudimentary services, like your customer support, or your ticketing, or your account opening process, or a KYC re-KYC process, all of them have got automated with the help of these technologies. I don't think there is any industry or a bank which is taking a which is not adopting any of these technologies. Otherwise, that becomes the your existence is at a risk if you don't adapt to any of those technologies.
Adapt or perish. I think
Yeah.
we have to embrace technology, and we cannot shy away from technology and digital innovation. But I think it's also about, especially for a banking sector, just like the health sector, um, there always will be a marriage of physical and digital touch, as we say, phygital. Um, but in many cases, in the banking sector, we see that physical touch has been reduced. We hardly see any people going to banks nowadays, until unless some people still using a check, or something like that. I think I remember in one of our events, one of the policymaker from the state of Uttar Pradesh has come. I think he was representing finance department of Uttar Pradesh, and he was saying that in UP, in Gautam Budh Nagar, that is Noida, uh, the number of ATMs have gone down, and that has been done intentionally because Not many people are going to even go into ATMs because most of them, as all of you have said in the beginning, UPI, digital payments, and all those things. So it's a huge opportunity, but also a huge challenge to manage this kind of ecosystem. And I think there also technology is going to play an important role. Let me come back to Suresh on a different perspective. See, we have been going through pandemic. I think we haven't seen this kind of situation in last 100 years after Spanish flu. Even Spanish flu did not affect so many continents, so many countries at this pace and together. But what COVID has done, it has brought back the attention to a very important part of the operation, that is managing critical events. It can be pandemic, it can be disaster, it can be anything. It's called CEM, critical event management. How much the banks are ready or the financial institutions ready in terms of digital infrastructure uh, to foresee this kind of thing might happen in the future? Are we ready for that? Your thoughts on that?
So with the pandemic, I think no many banks have learned how to manage long-term crisis situation. How do you manage a situation where no people are not able to reach office for almost 6 months? So and as a learning, what I saw in the organization is now there is you need a strong BCP team with involvement of stakeholders across functions. It is not a IT problem or a technology problem. You need support from all business leaders across the organization, and you daily in case of a crisis day, something like a pandemic, maybe you set up a bridge call every day in the morning, see what is happening. No, it is not a question of system getting hacked or not being available. It is more of people and resource have to be managed. No, if had it been a say flood situation, only a particular city would have got affected. Here we were in a situation where nobody is able to go to office all over the country. So this is something unprecedented. But I think no, again your technology should be accessible from wherever you are. So that is where whole systems got re-engineered. They were when many of them were legacy systems. We might have a 20-year-old system working fine till yesterday. Suddenly there is a need that these systems have to be accessed from the home, so that there is a customer service. Whole phone banking agents who worked in a very controlled environment will have to now forcefully work from home. Physically, collection agents used to go and collect money from defaulting customers. So it was a very radical change, and people have to be in a position where, be it you have to adopt a hybrid module of working. So you should be able to work from home as well as office. Maybe many organizations will end up working 3 to 4 days from office and still have 1 day or 2 days where they allow people to work from home, so that the systems are fine tuned. Something happens similar like this, if there is a different wave, you are still able to address, and there will be lot of change in the way you monitor your staff, your productivity, your uh, people, so on and so forth. So this is something we see as a change, and many people are coming with many productivity monitoring tools. So they say, just we can tell you your staff has done what in last 8 hours. So kitna excel file khola, kya kiya usne, no, what kind of activity he did, which system he access, which teams meeting he attended. So those kind of monitoring will also come. There will be lot of data leakage prevention tools. DLP will be embedded. No, if anything abnormal, data leakage will not be restricted to name, address, phone number, Aadhaar number, PAN number. So anything related to your bank proprietary information, maybe you have some sensitive policy, even that if it gets leaked, banks will have to put rules and regulations so that they are able to and system controls to monitor all this. And there should also be sufficient awareness to the staff. Continuously you have to tell them you are working from home. These are the controls. Use maybe secure Wi-Fi. Never go to some cyber cafe and access your bank system just because we are allowing you to work from home. So it will be all the people, process, technology factors will have to get revamped to handle any future crisis. and even the many organizations, sustained through the COVID. That itself is a learning for all of us. Uh, Overall, we will be, unless it is something like if there is a cashier, he can't work from home. So those people, you will have to make arrangements to send them to office. For example, I understand our bank, made arrangements of bus when all the public transport was shut down. We set up
equity. Prior to this, I was the chief business officer of Lending Card prior to starting this company. So what we do is, and I will answer your question subsequently. So what we are building is the largest financial services brand for the India 2, which is the middle class people, lower middle class people living in the smaller cities. We are not going after the India 1, which is the over leverage market, which everybody else is going after, both banks and fintechs. So our core thesis is to solve for that segment. Now, you can't really do a pure digital model when you either lend to them or create any financial services for them. So we create financial services for India 2, not microfinance. So somewhere between the India 1 and the microfinance market, the middle class people living in smaller cities. Now, for these people, we need a phygital model. Now, the problem with the phygital model is where the frauds like really start to come in, right? Like if you have your own, so we work with LIC agents and these micro agents and all that in smaller cities. So while we create our own product, we do have our own NBFC, we do balance sheet and non like co-lending kind of business, 250 crores of AUM as we speak. We and we are into insurance and we are launching a neo bank and some of the other things relevant for that market, which is primarily a PSU customer, not the HDFC Bajaj customer. Now, for that customer segment, you can't really reach digitally. While you can reach digitally, the CAC and all does not work. So we have a phygital model. Now, with phygital model, we work with LIC agents and other micro loan connectors, etc., across 1,000+ cities in India. The biggest problem that happens in that kind of model is the fraud, that somebody can just take the loan on the own behalf, right? So how we have solved it with technology is that we have two apps. One is a partner app, which is the freelancer app, and then there is a customer app also. So while the freelancer can source the business through his or her own app, which is the Virai's partner app, the customer has to give the consent of CIBIL, give the OKYC, everything has to happen on the customer app. Even though it is assisted, the freelancer may help the customer, but the customer has to give the OTP. The customer OTP has to come on the, and all the analytics, we read the SMS, and obviously we take the bank statements and all those, right? So we can build all the layers. So especially like while most of the folks focus on solving the frauds and all those for the Indian market, for us, the challenges are different.
Okay.
And for us, this ability to have two different apps where the customer gives the consent, the customer does the KYC, and we are able to pull the data and do all the analytics on the customer's phone, right? That's where we are able to.
So you're talking about a customer-facing app,
As well as the
as
partner-facing
well as
app, both
in
sides.
isolation. That's fine. So Nankishore, I'll come to next. My next question, he touched upon the co-lending aspect, and say end of the day, NBFCs need to work with the banks, the institutions. So that collaboration between banks and NBFCs and the role technology is playing in enhancing a better collaboration business model. What is the role of technology there?
So, any collaboration becomes successful if technology is leveraged to the core. Okay? As far as NBFC and bank goes, people have looked at this relationship as a principal and user of funds. So, bank is a principal of fund,
Exactly.
and NBFC is the user of fund. I see it far differently. Okay? Uh, the bankers with which we co-lend in some of our target segment, you would not believe when we did data mining, our 37% of the customers were from the same bank.
Oh,
Okay?
So that
So,
helps.
so that's when we went to the bank and we said that no competition to it, because your money is being used and you are getting more out of your money with lesser risk because the risk is taken by me. Why don't you help me do a better lending, better credit appraisal, wherein I can leverage your data, I can leverage your insights to choose how better I can give them. One. Second, every bank, the most important thing is their CASA, because until and unless they get money, they can't lend. So what we told them that we will do a two-way integration. One is I lend to your customer, you provide me the best possible information about your customers So that even if the customer, I'll tell you a classical case where customers, those 34% customers, 17% customers, as per the bank credit appraisal, and when we mapped bank data on our credit appraisal, the loan eligibility became 1.5 times. Okay, wherein I had a little information about the customer has in a 10-year history with the bank, and I was able to, with the same appraisal process, was able to offer him 1.5 times of the loan. So look at the revenues where they are going. Second, we also created a model wherein customer takes loan in their same bank account. So for the bank, the money is moving from one pocket to another, better credit appraisal, more business, and more control both for bank and this. And by doing so, we negotiated the rate with which the bank was lending. Thank you.
Thank you. Kapil, in terms of the collaboration between banks and NBFCs, how can technology play a better role in enhancing that collaboration? Your experience.
There are two aspects to it. First is, let's talk about the Bank of Banks, the Reserve Bank of India. So in past year or so, the rules and regulation and the compliances which are required by NBFCs have been made stringent. And that has been done to avoid such kind of lapses which were happening in terms of the relationships which NBFCs were having with the bank. Now, one way of raising funds for NBFCs is obviously, they go to banks and they ask for deposits. But the other way are that, they also go to other mutual funds, they seek investment in terms of, maybe equities at times. So the idea is that, the systems, the compliances, the sharing of information with the bank is at a very nascent stage. Which is rightly mentioned by the co-panelist here. So even if there are, say, SaaS softwares or maybe the tools wherein we can access these kind of information, the idea is to use that data for serving the purpose in a very meaningful manner, rather than having those data in bits and pieces everywhere.
Okay.
So it's more about sharing the information and making the decision by validation of the data in terms of the usage of these technical tools.
Okay. Yes.
I think this whole trend that has started in India on NBFC to bank or like fintech, either NBFC or otherwise, it's the right thing to do, right? Like everybody brings their own something to the ecosystem, right? In fact, even with fintechs, fintech to large NBFC is a big business. So I think I don't know if you know. So I met folks in your office on Monday, and we are starting relationship, co-lending relationship with you. Right? We are a relatively smaller company, and like there are much larger NBFCs like you or Aditya Birla, right? So there are people that have the scale that can borrow at a cheaper cost, and then there are new age players that are like us who may have either advantage in distribution or underwriting or fraud management or anything else, right? And it's the great symbiotic relationship that is starting. And in last couple of years, so when I was the CBO of Lending Card, this did not even exist. This whole co-lending or this partnership did not exist. Like we used to do 100% balance sheet on lending. Like we would borrow from the banks, and it was a painful process. But now, even though I have left Lending Card a couple of years ago, like they have completely moved to co-lending with the other larger NBFCs or banks. So that's the right model, because on one side you have the money, and on the other side you have the nimbleness, right? And I'm sure like even nimble, there are large scale nimble NBFCs like you who are working with PSUs who may not have the chops or the technology to actually serve the customers. So yeah, it's the right thing to happen, and both
Okay.
sides are learning from each other and overall contributing to the nation and the ecosystem.
What is in terms of specifically we're talking about NBFC environment, in terms of further regulations, um, especially where once the co-lending and these things happens, when there is a joint business model with the banks also, and we know how banks and other financial services is anyway highly regulated. So do you see further scopes for regulations regulating the NBFC sector, and to compliance with those regulations, what can increasingly the role technology can play in further compliance?
What all I say is truly personal. No, that's why the disclaimer. We need to look at regulation from a very different perspective. Till now, we across industries, we have looked at regulation when it comes as a watchdog, as a constraint. I look at regulation from a very different perspective. Because people who are creating regulation, they are far more wiser than us. A. They are far more visionary than us. So what I see and what is the need for regulation in NBFC is primarily how regulation can create a mechanism where the interest of the right people as borrowers is protected versus some wrongdoings of NBFCs to support few wrong individuals. If you see why NBFCs are not well regarded versus banks in this country or globally, he said Capital One, etc., 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 they are more nimble, they are more aggressive, they have adopted technology far more faster, their margins are far less than the banks. But because of lack of customer centric regulations, okay, the NBFC as an industry is still not a choice of borrowing by tier A borrowers. Okay, I draw a parallel to the securities market in India. Okay, because we have one subsidiary which is into two subsidiaries which is into securities market, and look at what SEBI has done. What SEBI has done over a period of years has created a regulation which entails, which entrusts faith in anybody or everybody who is entering the market. So, to me, regulator has to look from that perspective and create regulation which may not be taken very well by the industry because nobody wants to be regulated and ring fenced, but in the long run it helps in scaling the business. And you see in the investment market what has happened in last 2 years when everybody was crying because of the COVID. That is one market which has grown equivalent to what they have not grown in last 20 years.
Exactly.
So that is where my take is.
So basically, you would recommend a regulatory body like a SEBI, or in insurance we have an IRDA, so or things like. Exactly. Yes, Kapil.
See, these regulators, for example, RBI is one of the most renowned regulators in the world. You took name of SEBI, IRDA. You know, these are mainly to protect the interest of the stakeholders, in particular, the masses. So what we have seen post demonetization is that there was a huge inflow of funds in these NBFCs happening. And where was those amount going? Was it going to, say, priority sector lending, or it was going to infrastructure, or it was going to co-lending, or maybe to the people who want, say, personal finance? Was it happening via collateral? So all this data which is coming up are very crucial in terms of the user behavior. Now, as a regulator, RBI or maybe these regulators have access to these information. The idea is to make sure that we go hand in hand, or maybe we go with the flow, what's happening globally. We have various case studies from China, from European countries, from Middle East, how the financial sector has evolved in time. So when we say that everything should be regulated, we agree. We have to agree. But at the same time, we also need to ensure that the things which are happening with the help of technology need to be also considered. Being from a blockchain background, if I talk to any of the banks or NBFCs, they will not touch us. So we are untouchables in terms of UPI integration, payment gateway integration. But then we have left with no choice than to go to Estonia or maybe to Dubai or some state in USA. So the idea is that a regulator for NBFCs should also have access to these information, and it should be towards making the system more robust, and implementation of more technologies should be promoted, especially of the blockchain technology.
Yes.
So I have a slightly different view, right? I have lived in US for many years, and last 10 years I've been in India also. I think RBI is one of the most uh, progressive regulator in the world, right? Now, obviously, in the industry, people would want free hand, right, which gives them flexibility to maybe make more money or something, but sometimes at the expense of customers. But for the right, for the industry to grow in the right manner, the regulations are very important. And we have seen when regulations are not there. So I come from digital background and like fintechs and all, right? Like we saw that there were no clear regulations between fintech and NBFC or fintech or bank, mostly fintech and NBFC, this whole FLDG, right? And then a lot of these, foreign players came in and they started doing these payday loans and charging like crazy 1,000% interest rate and doing all the nonsense collection practice and all, right? And it hurt customers, it hurts the industry. So if the regulations, the right regulations are not there, then there are some bad players that will come who will game those regulations,
True.
right? That lack of regulation and bring the entire industry down. And that's where I think, and RBI is kind of realizing this, that fintech is too important now. And they're trying to bring the right regulations, maybe a little late. Maybe this should have happened a couple of years ago. The regulatory arbitrage for some of these companies that came from abroad and they started doing this payday, stuff should not ideally have been there. But thankfully, RBI has done a lot of cleanup there. And now people who are willing to build the right business around the right regulation, that itself is a moat in itself,
Okay.
right? So what the nation needs and what is the people that are willing to play cleanly and do the put their blood and sweat in building the right business and operation and do all the hard work where they can balance the customer interest as well as their own interest. It's very easy to like cheat the customer and make extra bucks, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last round will conclude, and we'll start with Nankishore. 1 minute to each of you. What, from the technology perspective, do you foresee would be the prerogative of NBFC in the next 12 to 18 months? We see technology-wise, the priority action which NBFCs would take. What do you foresee?
The most important and priority action which we should take is having a technology which can read data fast and which can analyze data to the best of ability to deliver customer experience. So in NBFC, it's all about data.
Thanks.
In my view, the problem here is with the accessibility. And I would like to see fintech or the technology playing a role wherein NBFCs and the banks are so much equipped that they can actually give sanction or loans maybe in less than 30 seconds in next, say, 3 to 5 years.
So that's quite ambitious.
Yeah, I think that's where we are moving towards, right? Like account aggregator is the the core thing, right? Like that's like a dream come true for all of us, right? Like UPI was essentially the thing, like for the bringing the cost of capital, cost of operations down, bringing the friction down. Like this account aggregator is literally a dream come true for the entire fintech and the banking ecosystem. So it has been in works for some time. I think it's slowly starting to get its feet on the ground. But I think next year onwards, you will see a real impact happening. So UPI also took some time, right? Like first 1-2 years, it was slightly on the slower side. Right now, the banks are adopting the whole account aggregator stack. Once SBI and some of these bigger ones really go live, it's going to be a big game changer for all of us. Will increase competition, but again, then the point is about like who can do it better, right? Who can distribute better, who can underwrite better, who can collect better.
Okay, thanks. Yes, one question. Sure, sure, definitely.
Good afternoon, Rajesh Khandelwal here. I want to talk to Mr. Jain. Like right now, you said the upcoming thing right now is blockchain, which is coming up on a very big scale, and it will be beneficial for all the industry to get the full data. But in regards to cryptocurrency, the way it's considered as a gambling. So, what do you say about the same?
So when I sit here, I represent blockchain as a technology. When we talk about, say, crypto, right? Crypto is just one of the use cases of blockchain technology, right? It could be a medium wherein you reward the players who are participating in this blockchain layer, but standalone crypto doesn't have any value, right?
Any?
Standalone crypto, like I can mint or I can give you crypto, say in next 2 days, your own crypto, whatever your name / crypto. That doesn't make any sense. But as a technology, not only people sitting here, but globally, people understand that how this decentralization ecosystem is going to change the internet forever, right? So when we talk about blockchain, we don't talk about crypto assets, right? So when we talk about, say, NFTs, now, for example, recently, Ethereum founder Vitalik Buterin launched SBT, which is soulbound tokens, which are just having those wallets where you can only store your personal information. So this is again one of the use cases. In BFSI, more use cases will evolve with time, but right now, international remittances is one of the use cases which we are working on. Trade finance is one of the cases. Then security, collateralization, putting your property on blockchain. These are the use cases. Rather, we focus on crypto as an asset. We should focus blockchain as a technology which is going to change the internet forever in next decade or 2 decades or so.
So, you consider it as a gambling?
I have no comments.
I'm waiting
to
for
say
that answer.
No. I'll give you that answer. 25 years back, either of us would have asked our parents that I want to buy a share, the answer would have been same. Satta bazaar jua hai. So what he's trying to say is that उस समय भी सट्टा बाजार जुआ इसलिए था क्योंकि पैसा कमाने का वो एक जरिया था जो आपको, मेरे को और हमारे जैसे लोगों को समझ में नहीं आता था. Okay? Similarly, if you look at crypto, so whatever he's saying didn't excite you, because whatever he's saying doesn't create a dopamine in you or me. So whenever anything comes new, if it is creating a dopamine in us, we try to embrace it. Okay? He's discussed about lot of valid use cases of blockchain in terms of properties. Okay? Look at the cases of property fraud which are happening globally. किसी की property किसी को बेच दी, I still don't know who is the right owner of the property. That is a blockchain use case. Personal documents, we all know DigiLocker. Have we ever thought that we will keep our certificates or everything in a place called as DigiLocker? I still remember that I used to have my IIT degree laminated. I don't know when I lost it during COVID and still unable to get it. and it's still not available on DigiLocker. So crypto is something which is a use case of blockchain which had gained prominence. I'm not here to say whether crypto is right or wrong. We should look at blockchain in terms of its usability for the mankind. And that is precisely the reason, as a government of this country, we have said that we understand that digital currency is to come. Okay, in this form or that form, nobody knows. It's too new. So I hope I've answered your question on gambling. Okay, until we know, even if it is valid, it is gambling for us. Otherwise, we should look at blockchain in a larger sense.
Just a word of caution. He mentioned about dopamine. Too much dopamine is injurious to health.
That's what crypto is.
Okay, so be aware. Whenever you invest, you should know what you are doing. We are not here to give you any advice on investments, right? We are here to bolster this phenomenon called blockchain technology, which is the future.
I'll discuss with you offline.
No
But
problem.
apart from that, I just want to come on the same line. Right now, you said about assets being purchased by other person. Right now, the credibility of any person is considered on the basis of CRISIL. And approximately 6 to 8 months before, there had been a huge scam which came across that many people's details were used by other people to take away the loan, and whereby suddenly the person got a love letter that you have defaulted in so and so loan, and whereby the person was shocked that I didn't take that loan. And later on, even there had been some cases whereby the people had a fight with the credit card company provider, and whereby the credit card company was adamant that no, you have to pay this, otherwise your CRISIL rating will be troubled up. Now, what about those people who get troubled up in regards to CRISIL rating, but in actual,
It is a
they
classic,
are strong?
it is a classic case of identity theft. Okay, we all talk about good things of technology. Okay, I wanted to answer when he asked that what technology would do to prevent the NPAs, or there was another question. Actually, this is all created by technology, if you ask me. Loans were there in the old age also, but in the old age, NPAs were not there because I knew to whom I am giving the loan. I knew his 7th generation to whom I am giving loan. So with the advent of technology, if I reach a place in HDFC Bank, we had given a personal loan to somebody in 2 minutes. He wanted 30 seconds. A day will come, we will do it in 30 seconds, also 3 seconds. Okay. Technology helps us to generate scale. Technology helps us to reach where we want to. But everything which has a positive has a negative to it. There cannot be anything which is 100% foolproof. Okay. So with the advent of technology, we gain something, we lose something, we still work to remove those areas of deficiencies and work towards it. So to me, it's a vicious circle. If it is not there, all the digital people and technology people or the cyber security people sitting over here would not have jobs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we conclude, I would request Mr. Northeast to hand over a small token of appreciation to all the panelists.
end of the BFSI Finnovation Conclave organized by APAC News Network. I thank all the participants, all the eminent speakers, all the delegates, all our partners who have been part of this conclave, who have made this possible. And I would also like to thank uh, our stakeholders. That stakeholders means our stakeholders from the healthcare ecosystem, governance ecosystem, education ecosystem, BFSI ecosystem, enterprise ecosystem. Just to inform all of you that we'll be organizing a two-day mega global education and skill conclave in July in Delhi, 14, 15 July in Delhi, which will see presence of 100 plus school owners across India, 150 plus higher education leaders, and at least 50 plus exhibitors. And we're expecting 20 to 25 plus industry participation as well, along with country participation and all those things. So do join us there in Delhi. We are planning the third edition of BFSI Finnovation Conclave in the month of November in Mumbai again. So we hope to see you again in that conclave. And we're also planning a CIO conclave in the month of September, again in the city of Mumbai. So keep supporting APEC News Network. Keep following us in our social media handles in Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and let's all of us do our bit to transform India's knowledge economy to the next level. Thank you so much, all of you. Goodbye. Take care. Can I request all our team members to come on stage?